Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Friday Night Smackdown review. And Smackdown, of course, was from the Performance Center in Orlando. And Smackdown tonight, of course, was absolutely terrible. Terrible show tonight. And before I get into the review, I have some news, some WWE news regarding SummerSlam and WWE going back to live television. They're going to be doing live television again with Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. So, going to get into the SummerSlam news. I know a lot of you know about SummerSlam news and where it's taking place, but WWE did find a location for SummerSlam, and they're going to be moving out of the Performance Center. So SummerSlam is going to be taking place at the Amway Center in Orlando. And according to WrestlingInc.com here, it says that WWE are also planning to host other upcoming events at the arena under what was described as a new, and I quote, long-term residency at the arena. WWE is set to tape upcoming pay-per-view and TV events from the Amway Center. So they're going to be doing pay-per-views and Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. And they are also going to be doing, it's going to be taking place at SummerSlam, they're also going to be getting a virtual fans, just like what the NBA is doing. They have no fans in attendance, of course, due to COVID. So the NBA is having these virtual fans, there, and they're just cheering on for their teams. And that's what WWE is going to be doing. They're going to be getting fans, virtual fans that are going to be cheering there. But I think that's pretty cool for the time being until regular fans, until, the fans come back, whenever that's going to be. So the fans will be shown on LED boards. So I think, like I said, that's pretty cool for the time being, up until fans come back in attendance. So that's the SummerSlam news, and so it was also announced that WWE is going back to doing live TV. And it's going to go back to doing live TV next Friday for SmackDown's Go Home show for SummerSlam. Tonight was the last SmackDown tape-in at the Performance Center. And then Monday Night Raw's Go Home show for SummerSlam is going to be the last tape show at the Performance Center. So everything begins next week with SmackDown's Go Home show, where they're going to be going back to doing live television. So, and they're going to be using the Amway Center, like I said, for future pay-per-views and Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. So, and then also NXT is going to be moving to the Amway Center also, until they could get back to going to Full Sail University. And there was a video that leaked out today where, well, it's Saturday already as I'm doing this video, but earlier yesterday, the WWE trucks already arrived at the Amway Center. So they had that video out. So, but that's the news regarding SummerSlam and WWE going back to doing live television. So let's jump right into the SmackDown review. And by the way, did you guys know tonight that SmackDown or WWE went TV 14? If you saw the little bug in the corner, where it has the rating for the show, it said TV 14. I'm like, WWE, went back to TV 14, which was cool, but at the same time, they're a little too late on that. It should have been done like 5 years ago or longer than that. It's too late. So SmackDown started off with Biggie versus John Morrison, and unfortunately the match didn't end up taking place because, of course, the lights started flickering as the match was about to begin, and we see Retribution appear on the ring apron. Like a masked female member of Retribution appeared on the ring apron. Biggie and John Morrison end up looking at this female member, and she ended up entering the ring, and she ended up facing off with Biggie and John Morrison. And then we had more of Retribution come in. They got inside the ring. Michael Cole and Corey Graves end up running to the back just like they did last week. Biggie and John Morrison end up fighting off Retribution, but they end up getting beat down. Other members of Retribution were standing on top of the announce table. They were raising the weapons that they had, and they ended up laying out Biggie and John Morrison. Retribution then ended up taking off. They ran to the back, and Biggie was just face down in the ring. John Morrison was out on the floor. He was laid out. And The Miz ended up running down, ended up checking on Morrison. And then SmackDown went to commercial, and that was that. So, more Retribution, them attacking members on SmackDown, superstars on SmackDown, and doing their destruction on Monday Night Raw, where on Monday Night Raw this past week, they ended up taking a cinder block, and they threw it right through the window of the Performance Center. Glass shattered. And then they flipped over a car on Monday Night Raw this past week, which I'm like, how did they flip over the car? Did they get Braun Strowman to help them flip the car over? But yeah, Retribution ended up wreaking havoc again this week on SmackDown. And then when SmackDown came back from the commercial, The Miz ended up apologizing to John Morrison for him not being out there. And he had a call with Maurice. He was talking to Maurice. But Morrison didn't blame that on The Miz. He ended up blaming everything on Big E, which Big E ended up sending a tweet out on Twitter, which I don't even know what it was, because I don't have Twitter. I don't use Twitter. Twitter is nothing but a drama, social media site out there. But even Facebook, sometimes it's like it has a little bit of drama on there. But Miz and Morrison end up leaving, and then we get Corbin. My God, too much Corbin on SmackDown. It's like we see this guy every single weekend, and whenever he appears on TV, we're like, oh. So Corbin ends up coming. He ends up saying that we are under attack and that no one wants to listen. Corbin ends up saying that we need direction, and he is that guy. He ends up saying that if everyone follows him, he can lead them to safety. Yeah, okay. So Big E ends up telling Corbin to shut his mouth. And Big E ends up giving a prep talk to everybody back there, ends up saying that this is our house. And he'll be damned if the Foot Clan from Ninja Turtles runs up in here and puts their feet on his couch. Big E, I think you're getting confused of the Foot Clan. I think you're talking more about Akira Tozawa and his ninjas, which they are on Monday Night Raw. They are the Foot Clan. Retribution is not the Foot Clan. That's more of Akira Tozawa and his ninjas. So Biggie ends up going on, and he gets everyone hyped up. He ends up saying that he will go back in the ring tonight and beat John Morrison and show Retribution how it's done. So Biggie ended up saying that now is not the time to run and hide. It's the time to fight. He ended up asking everyone who was with him, and everyone seemed to be with Biggie. So then Sheamus ends up coming in, ends up mocking Biggie. Sheamus ends up taunting Chad Gable, and Sheamus ends up saying that he isn't afraid of Retribution. He says, but if Retribution had any sense at all, they'd be afraid. So that was basically that. That was what happened. So, yeah, again, we got Big E versus John Morrison later on in the night, which was the main event. So then we had Sasha and BAYLEY in the ring. Oh, and before they cut to Sasha and BAYLEY, we saw extra security guards, in the arena trying to keep Retribution from coming back in. So we saw that. Then we went to Sasha and BAYLEY in the ring. They both ended up saying that Retribution actually wants to hear what they have to say, and that everyone else should also. Sasha ended up saying that everyone knows not to interrupt them. So BAYLEY ended up saying that it's time to get this show going with the Triple Brand Battle Royal. And of course, the Triple Brand Battle Royal was announced by Stephanie, which WWE didn't even promote before that got announced by Stephanie, because it's a big thing. Have the winner of this Battle Royal face BAYLEY for the Smackdown Women's Championship at SummerSlam. So they should have promoted it before Stephanie even announced it. So they end up kicking Greg Hamilton out of the ring, and that they are going to be doing ring announcing. So Sasha and BAYLEY end up doing ring announcing. They end up starting to do their introductions for the Battle Royal. They first end up introducing the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay, from Monday Night Raw. So Sasha and BAYLEY end up taking shots at the Iconics as they came into the ring. And then they announced the NXT superstars who were going to be in this match. And the NXT superstars were Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart. Two very talented women on the NXT Women's Division. Really like Shotzi Blackheart, very talented. It said what happened in a news article that I read about Shotzi Blackheart, where her car ended up getting stolen with her ring gear in it. And there was video that was posted with Shotzi Blackheart and the cops. They end up finding where the car was. Shotzi Blackheart's gear was in the trunk of the car, and she was concerned about that helmet, the helmet that she wears when she comes out, which if you watch the video, you'll understand why Shotzi has that helmet, and she wears it, and why that helmet is so dear to her. So you'll probably find that here on YouTube. So they were both in this match. BAYLEY and Sasha end up commenting on Tegan and Shotzi, idolizing them. And then they introduced Lacey Evans. And of course they mentioned, her daughter Summer. And Lacey, didn't really like that. So they end up getting to their next entrant in this Triple Brand Battle Royal. and they are confused about this one. And then the music ended up hitting, and it is Asuka. Asuka was in this Triple Brand Battle Royal. For what reason, I don't know. See, this is WWE's bad booking right here. Asuka has a match with Sasha at SummerSlam for the Royal Women's Championship. Did Asuka really need to be in this match? So you had Asuka hit the ring. She ended up brawling with Sasha and BAYLEY. They retreated out to the floor. And the other competitors came down. You had Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Naomi. You had Tamina here, Dana Brooke, Nikki Cross. There you go. But the match, it was a battle royal. The competitors who I wanted to win, whether it be Shotzi Blackheart, Tegan Nox, or Ruby Riott, Liv Morgan, Shayna Baszler, even Bianca Belair. I'm like, did they all survive in this match? No. They all got eliminated. So the winner of this match was Asuka. Why? See, like I said, this is WWE bad booking right here. Why did you give Asuka the win for this Battle Royal when she has a match with Sasha for the Raw Women's Championship at SummerSlam? So what is WWE trying to tell us? That we're going to have Asuka versus BAYLEY versus Sasha, and it's going to be a triple threat match? This is bad booking right here. Asuka did not need to win this match. Hell, she didn't even need to be in this Battle Royal. This is absolute shit booking here by WWE. So then we went backstage and we saw Sasha and BAYLEY there. BAYLEY wasn't happy about Asuka earning the right to face her at SummerSlam. And Asuka ends up coming and beats BAYLEY down. Asuka ended up taunting Sasha and BAYLEY. Officials end up rushing over to break things up between them. And that was that. So we went to Mandy Rose backstage. She ended up cutting a promo on how she's a hard worker, despite everything against her. And she ended up thanking Sonya for reminding her she's more than just a pretty face. She said if Sonya Deville thought cutting her hair would destroy her, think again. So Mandy Rose ends up putting out a challenge for Sonya Deville at SummerSlam. She challenges her to a hair versus hair match. And she ends up telling Sonya to put her money where her mouth is. And she ends up saying that she can't wait to prove her wrong. So Mandy Rose ends up promising that things will get ugly. So that was that. I mean, we were all knowing that a hair versus hair match was coming when Sonya Deville ended up cutting a little bit of Mandy Rose's hair off. We all knew it was coming. So then we saw Sheamus approach the guards backstage. He ends up telling them to grab a pint and, check out his match because Retribution won't be showing up on his watch. So that was that. So then Smackdown came back from the commercial. Nikki Cross was shown pacing backstage. Alexa Bliss ended up walking up. Cross ended up hugging Bliss. She ended up apologizing for pushing her down 2 weeks ago. And she ended up asking what's been going on. And Bliss ended up telling Nikki Cross that she's fine. Cross ended up wanting to get Bliss to safety because of The Fiend. And Bliss ended up saying that she wants to stay around here and get some answers from Braun Strowman. And that was that. And then we had Sheamus versus Chad Gable. Who cared about this match? Sheamus ended up winning. Bro kick to Chad Gable. Who cares? And then we had AJ Styles come out. AJ Styles came out along with Joseph Parks. From what I know from people who watch TNA Impact, he was known as Abyss in TNA. Well, I wouldn't know that because I don't watch TNA. I don't watch Impact. So they came out and he shows Styles something on the screen, and there is a easel in the middle of the ring, and it's covered up. Styles ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up saying that a lot of things are going on in WWE, and that nobody cares about these hooligans trying to tear stuff up, known as Retribution. He ends up saying we have more pressing things to worry about, like who he will face at SummerSlam. And as of right now, Styles has no opponent for SummerSlam. He's not even on the SummerSlam card. So he ended up going on about being a fighting champion and how nerds keep telling him who he should defend the Intercontinental Championship on a guy based on statistics. He ended up saying that it dawned on him when he watches baseball, he looks at batting averages. Styles ended up saying he also looks at statistics when he watches football. He ended up saying then he realized he's a handsome stud of a nerd himself because he cares about statistics. Styles went on to say that it's as easy as this. If you're going to go by statistics, then he's hired a team to come up with the phenomenal Intercontinental Statistics System. Or that is known, without that long word, as PISS. So that was funny. He ended up saying that it's a work in progress. So Styles ended up saying that this doesn't mean he's just handing out title shots. He doesn't hand anything out. He says they will have to earn this. So he pulls off the top part of the easel that was covering, and a whiteboard shows up. And his name, Styles' name, is the #1 spot on that easel. And he pulls off the rest of the covering to show who else is on the chart, but nobody was on the chart. It was just his name. So Styles ended up saying that no one else has earned the right to be in the ring with him. He says, here's the truth. If you work hard, real hard, really, really hard, one day you can make it on the board and face him for the Intercontinental Championship. So then out came Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy made his way down to the ring. He ended up mentioning the respect that he has for Styles and his career. He also ended up talking about how Sheamus robbed him in the Intercontinental Championship tournament. So Jeff went on about how special the title is to him, and he ended up saying that Styles has to admit that Styles versus Hardy sounds cool, mega cool. So he ended up saying that he's out here man-to-man to X Styles for a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. Styles ended up saying, statistics aside, he respects Jeff Hardy, and he always had. Styles ended up saying that they've known each other for a long time, and that Jeff Hardy has always been good to him. Styles admires what Hardy has been through and where he's coming from. And Styles ended up saying that a lot of people would love to see them in the ring together. Styles went on giving props to Jeff Hardy and says that he deserves to be on the board. So Styles ends up saying, "Hell no," to giving him a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. Styles ends up saying that hits won't be a pity party. So then Jeff Hardy then attacks Styles, beats him down. Jeff Hardy ends up grabbing the marker and writes his name on the whiteboard, on the easel. So that was basically that. Styles was laid out on the floor. And that was that. So then we saw Cesaro and Nakamura backstage. And they end up putting the belts on display, the Smackdown Tag Team Championships. And they talk about the Lucha House Party not having a chance against the both of them. And so Lince Dorado and Gran Metalik, we see them creep up and they end up snatching the titles, running away with them. And we had Cesaro and Nakamura go chase after them. I'm like, is this the Jobber Ninja Turtle 24/7 Championship that they're running at? We have Tag Team 24/7 Championships now. Unbelievable. It was terrible. This was terrible. I say the Styles segment, was okay. So then we had Kayla Braxton. She ended up stopping Styles and Joseph Parks. She ended up asking AJ Styles about Jeff Hardy. Styles ended up saying that Hardy ended up assaulting him and that he doesn't respect the title or him. He ended up going on to say that Jeff Hardy wants a piece of him and that he's going to get it. And Styles ended up saying that he will show everyone what happens when you mess with him. You get erased. So Styles ends up turning to erase Jeff Hardy's name off the easel, off the whiteboard. And Joseph Parks was carrying it. And he ends up getting upset. Styles ends up getting upset when he sees that Jeff Hardy's name, when Jeff Hardy signed on the whiteboard, he wrote it in permanent marker. So Styles couldn't erase it off because it was permanent. It was a permanent marker. And that was that. And then we had Gran Metalik versus Shinsuke Nakamura. This was a quick match. In this match, you also saw the return of Kalisto. Kalisto ended up making his return. Cesaro and Nakamura were surprised at that. And we had Lince Dorado and Kalisto double teaming Cesaro on the ramp. Kalisto ended up dropping Cesaro with a big DDT. And Metalik took advantage of the match. And he ended up winning the match, delivering a elbow drop to Nakamura. And that was that. But overall, it was a quick match. And then we had Kayla Braxton. She was with Matt Riddle. She ended up asking Matt Riddle about Corbin and his King's Ransom, and also on Retribution. Riddle ended up telling Kayla Braxton that a bounty on your head isn't cool, and that he came to SmackDown to compete, and he wants to compete. And he ends up saying Corbin keeps walking around calling himself a king, and he ends up saying that Corbin is just a royal pain. Riddle ended up saying that he called Corbin out and tried to fight him, even costing him a match with Sheamus last week. So Chad Gable ends up walking up, and he ends up saying that he has to explain himself. He says he has a family to feed and got caught up in the King's Ransom. and that doesn't justify what he did. And Gable ended up saying that he came here to apologize face to face, man to man. So he ends up extending his hand out for Matt Riddle to shake his hand. Riddle ends up saying that it's all good and that he gets it. Matt Riddle ends up saying that if Chad Gable ever wants to go at it, let him know, because the bro is up for a fight. So then Corbin comes and attacks Matt Riddle from behind. Corbin ends up talking down at Matt Riddle. Chad Gable was still looking on. So Corbin ends up thanking Chad Gable for helping him out. And pretty much, basically, that was that. So, there you go. Looking like we're going to be getting, of course, Matt Riddle and Corbin, pretty much more. So then we had Alexa Bliss being interviewed. She ends up talking about how she previously got to know Braun Strowman because they were former partners in the mixed match challenge, and she ended up saying that Strowman is awesome, and that he's a good man, and that he's funny and witty, and protective, and passionate. She ended up saying that both her and Strowman got along so well because they call each other out on their crap. So the interviewer then ended up asking Bliss if she thought it would become more than a friendship, like romantically. And she ended up saying that maybe because they both cared about each other. So then the interviewer ends up asking if that's why the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, targeted her. Bliss ended up saying that she doesn't know, and that's a question to ask the Fiend. So this interviewer ended up asking Bliss what it's like to be in the presence of the Fiend. She ends up telling the interviewer that it's scary, it's terrifying, and also compelling. And she ended up saying that once you've interacted with the Fiend, it's like you could feel his presence around. And she ended up saying that for the first time in her life, she understands what they say when they say a moth to a flame. So we end up hearing Strowman's comments from last week where he ended up telling the Fiend that he doesn't give a damn about Bliss, and all he cares about is destroying the Fiend because he's the monster. So the interviewer ended up asking Bliss how that made her feel when Strowman ended up saying that. So Bliss ended up saying anything. She didn't say anything, and the interview ends. And that was that. And then Michael Cole then ended up announcing that for next week on Smackdown, it's going to be Styles versus Hardy, and the Intercontinental Championship will be on the line. And I'm like, why is this not on the SummerSlam card? This should be on the SummerSlam card. It shouldn't be on SmackDown next week. Styles should be on the SummerSlam card. The Intercontinental Championship should be on the SummerSlam card. But what the hell? This is WWE. This is their shitty booking. This match should be on SummerSlam. But yeah, we're getting the hair versus hair match at SummerSlam. That hair versus hair match between Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, that should have been on SmackDown. It could have been people tuned in, and it could make SmackDown get a ratings draw for Fox. I mean, that should be on SmackDown next week. Put Styles and Hardy on the SummerSlam card. So then we saw Sonya Deville backstage. She addressed Mandy Rose and ended up saying that she was surprised to hear the hair versus hair match at SummerSlam. Sonya Deville ended up saying that Mandy Rose is going to look great bald. So she ended up taking shots at Mandy Rose and ended up saying that she will destroy Mandy once and for all. And then Sonya then accepted the challenge. Great. So then we got Biggie versus John Morrison. Of course, this was supposed to happen at the beginning of the show, but of course, Retribution came out, so the match didn't get underway at the beginning of the show. The Miz was on commentary, and the match itself, it was a pretty, okay match. Wasn't great or perfect by any means. And you had Otis. He ended up coming out with the Money in the Bank briefcase, and the lights started flickering again in the Performance Center. Michael Cole on commentary was calling for security, and The Miz was looking around, thinking that Retribution was going to come out again. So security was out around the Performance Center. The Smackdown locker room was also out there at ringside. Lights were flickering again. Biggie versus Morrison, the match went on. And so during the match, the camera ended up cutting backstage. And we saw Retribution destroying the backstage area. They ended up attacking referees. They ended up taking out a security guard with a chair. And they ended up putting one of the refs through a table. And they continued destroying the backstage area of the Performance Center. They're throwing NXT chairs around. And they're turning tables over. And we saw one person was taking a shit in the bathroom, which that was random to see. One member of the Retribution group ends up spraying the WWE logo on a brick wall. They circle it and they put a line through it. It was in red spray paint. And we went back to the match that was happening, Morrison and Biggie. And the referee ends up running out, tell the superstars about what was happening backstage. They all ran to the back. And Miz stayed on commentary through this match. He says he will let the others deal with Retribution. But as soon as the superstars went to the back, Retribution was already gone. So Biggie ended up winning the match. Biggie ended up catching Morrison in a submission, in a stretch muffler submission. So Biggie ended up winning the match. So post-match, The Miz ended up rolling. The Miz ended up checking on John Morrison. Biggie ended up, leveled at ringside. He got up. And then Sheamus ended up coming out of nowhere, delivering a bro kick to Biggie. And that was that. And then we had Braun Strowman come out. He was yelling. He had a haircut, which was bald. He had a freshly shaved head. Still has beard. He looked like he could be Big Show's twin brother. That's what he looked like. So when SmackDown came back from the commercial, Strowman ended up delivering a message to Bray Wyatt, to The Fiend. He ends up saying that he warned him after the Swamp fight that he would bet the most evil son of a bitch we have ever seen. Strowman ended up calling The Fiend to the ring so he can rip The Fiend from limb to limb. Strowman ended up saying that he will be the last thing The Fiend sees before he eats out his entrails. And right here, Braun Strowman was acting like a heel. And, this is good for Braun Strowman. Him being a heel, he was becoming stale as a babyface. And I'm like, he needed a new, personality here with being a heel. He needed this. So out came Alexa Bliss. Bliss got in the ring. She ended up saying that at the risk of upsetting Strowman more, she thinks she owes it to their friendship to have a conversation. She ended up saying that she doesn't believe Strowman's comments from last week, when Strowman ended up saying that he didn't give a damn about her. And she ended up saying that they've been friends for years, but Strowman ended up disagreeing. Strowman ended up saying that Bliss ended up using him as a pawn. And he went on about how Bliss played him for some clown. He ended up saying that everyone can get it now, including Bliss. So Strowman ended up telling Bliss to get out of his ring so that he can deal with the Fiend. Bliss ended up telling him to be careful for what he wishes for. So Bliss ended up threatening to slap some sense into Strowman if he won't listen. So Bliss ended up yelling at Strowman to look at her when she's talking. And then Strowman ends up turning to Bliss. Bliss started slapping Strowman over and over, telling Strowman to wake up. And then that pissed off Strowman. Strowman ended up scooping up Bliss and presses her high above his head. The lights start to go out. Strowman still had Bliss held above his head. And Strowman ended up yelling, where are you? Because the Fiend was going to make his arrival. Strowman ended up tossing Bliss through the air, and the lights go out. And we had red lights come on. The Virtual Boy was turned on, and we see Bliss down on the mat, and the Fiend was standing over Bliss. And there's no sign of Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman somehow escaped the ring. So the Fiend ends up looking around, and Strowman ended up appearing on the screen. So Strowman was just laughing, and the Fiend ended up clutching his head, starts laughing, which I thought this whole thing was hilarious. So Strowman ended up was still laughing, and he yells out the Fiend. He had the Fiend sticking out his tongue like, from the mask. And the Fiend ends up looking up from Bliss, and Strowman was still shown on the screen, and the Fiend was shown saying, "Let me in." And that's how Smackdown went off the air. But I don't know where WWE is taking this whole storyline, now that involves Alexa Bliss in it. I don't know. Overall, like I said, this show was terrible tonight. Now it's basically that. But anyways, that's it for the Smackdown review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, I'll see you all later.